Zena, Warthog Princess, and welcome to the first of my RV videos. I won't call it education, but let's just call it tips, tricks, and lessons learned, because I have been RVing now for about 6 years, almost, and definitely have had some bumps in the road and lessons learned that either were things that I screwed up and figured out, or things that just happen and you have to live and learn anyway. So here goes. This first one is actually a combination of tips, tricks, and lessons learned, as well as accessories that I recommend. So right off the bat, I'll tell you a little story. Just a couple weeks ago, went on my first camping trip of the season. My trailer had been in storage for I'd say about 9 months actually. No problem with that. I had removed the battery, so there was no connectivity there. It wasn't draining, but it was just sitting in the garage. It was off the floor. It was on a piece of wood. But it wasn't on a charger, so there was none of that, and I didn't charge it up before I went. I did test it, and I had a battery booster, so I was able to get everything going, get hooked up, and hit the road. Went on a camping trip out in Quartzsite, which, if you're not familiar, is basically just go park anywhere you want in the desert out there and just camp, dry camp, no hookups, no nothing. So that's okay. I was ready for that. I had a bunch of water. Thankfully, I did not put water in the trailer, but it worked itself out. But on the way there, having had inspected my tires that looked like they were in good shape, there was no cracking, no issues. They were only 2.5 years old on the trailer, about 3 years old for the manufacturing date, which is something to check. If you're not familiar, you do need to change your tires every 5 years per the manufacturer date, not how long they've been on your vehicle. For trailers, specifically at motorhomes, RVs, because of just the way that they wear and whatnot. So every 5 years is a recommendation, no matter if you've had problems or not. So I didn't know that. I just learned that. It's moot because mine weren't 5 years old. They weren't even close, and they were in great shape. They didn't have any sun damage or anything that was visible, and they were in the proper pressure. So here I was driving down the road, I-10 West, and I had a blowout on the rear axle driver's side. So thankfully, it was, I didn't even feel it. I just happened to be doing a good cross check. So that's a good lesson, is not just paying attention to the road and your navigation and whatever you got going on inside your vehicle, but also checking your mirrors and really getting a good look at your trailer periodically on both sides, because things will happen and you sometimes won't know unless you see it, as was the case here. So I see this rubber flying and smoke coming off the back of the trailer. That's never a good sign. Pulled off the side of the road, which was extremely busy highway. So definitely always pull off as far as you safely can off the shoulder. Be aware that some soft shoulders are softer than others, climate and regional dependent. So be careful about not getting too far, because you don't want to fall off that side. Anyways, I pulled off, figured out where I was, and called roadside assistance because I didn't have a couple of the tools needed to fix it. One is there's a little ramp thing you can buy that you can use to pull up. If you have the dual axle, you pull the good tire up on it and it gets your bad tire off the road. And that's great. I had bought one of those when I bought the trailer, but I had loaned it out and not gotten it back and had not replaced it. And guess what? Now I needed it and didn't have it. So that sucked, and that kind of meant that I had to wait 4.5 hours on the side of a busy highway in the middle of the day, in the middle of nowhere, for roadside assistance to come and change my tire, which only took about 15 minutes once they got there, but what a pain in the butt. Then that meant I was rushed getting to camp and getting set up before dark. So blah, blah, blah. That's the story. And out of that, I learned several things. One, always make sure to check all of your tires well. Use 303 protectant or whatever on them to keep them longer and less sun damage potential. You can get covers, so when you're parked or stored for extended periods, you can put those on, and that's an additional layer of protection so that your covers get beat and worn by the sun rather than your tires themselves. And my spare tire, thankfully, was perfect working order. It just needed a little bit of air. Once you put it on, he aired it up and everything. But the cover was pretty well eaten up by the sun. I mean, it wasn't like flaking off or anything obvious, but once you actually pulled it off, it was obvious it needed to be replaced as well. So I bought a new one. And so that's the first one of accessories to share. If you know me at all, I'm quite patriotic. So I went ahead and just got an American flag. So I like the black. They do have it on Amazon in a white as well. But for a decent price, I got that. So that'll be my new cover. This one feels a little more robust than the Dutchman one that came with the trailer anyway. So that's good. The back is just elastic, so boom, goes right over the spare tire and off you go. So that's good. I did get all 4 tires replaced. Little tidbit there, if you're out in Quartzsite, there may be RV services or tire services that actually in this case came to me on site in the middle of the desert and did all my tires and installed stems. Brings up another lesson learned, by the way. My tires were rated for 60 psi. Trailer recommendation was to run them at 50 psi, 50, but the little rubber stems are only rated for 35 psi. Why would you even manufacture something with that incompatible limits? And how is that even legal to be safe on the road? I don't understand that at all. I don't think it had anything to do with my particular tire failure, but it was a good lesson nonetheless. So if you have rubber stems or whatever, change them. Recommended, put the steel ones in there, put the metal ones. And I did happen to have some in possession because I was already looking to put my new sensors for tire pressure monitoring. And so they just did all of that when they changed the tires, which was great. And those are from Ford in my case because they're compatible with my truck and they're designed for that. But they do make them in other companies and some of them are just like twist on and off you go. Anyway, something to look into if you're towing. Not necessarily pertinent for every vehicle, but if you're towing, it's important. All right, so tires. Last thing I'll say about the tires. I did get some covers to put on them when camped for extended periods or when stored. Since I just got them, they're not on the trailer just yet, which we'll go out there probably tomorrow and put them on. But these particular ones are kind of a thin reflective material, and then they actually have a reflector on it. I think that can be good just like when you're driving around, approaching your trailer at night and driving in. Anyway, so there's 4 of them. I have 4 tires, 4 of those, and I will definitely put those to good use. And always, always, always check your pressures and adjust them as needed. Okay, so that's the tires. So I got all that sorted, got out there, got camped, and got settled in, had some fun with a bunch of folks out there, met some new people. Additionally though, because I had left my battery just stored and not charging and not charged before I left, and because it was only a 4.5 hour drive, even though I sat on the side of the road for another 4.5 hours, it wasn't charging, even though the truck was running because the way that it works. So I ended up killing my battery, which is never a good thing. My refrigerator runs on propane, but little lesson learned. Even though it's dual, it can go electric and it's an automatic switch. I don't have a lever or anything, but it needs a little bit of electricity to operate, even if it's propane. So guess what? I had to throw away my chicken and my mayonnaise and my sour cream because the fridge stopped working. The rest of the stuff was like applesauce and it was fine. It didn't need to be refrigerated, but yeah. So take care of your battery. If you have a regular lead acid battery, make sure you do the appropriate maintenance, not just charging, but also putting the distilled water inside the cells is needed. You might have a maintenance-free battery like the AGM batteries. That's fine. Just make sure still that you got the right charging and whatnot. Top of the line, of course, you can get the lithium batteries, which once I was out in the middle of the desert and without power, I did have a generator, thankfully, so I still had some power. But I decided to buy a lithium battery because there was an RV show in town, and I went down there, and for $850, which was a smoking deal on the batteries, I bought one, took it back to the trailer, and then figured out you need a converter that is compatible with the appropriate charging voltage for those to optimize their performance. So lithium, you can go all the way down to 0 charge. The other batteries, you can only go down about half charge before you kill the battery. So that's kind of cool. You get a lot more life out of them. You get what you pay for, but you do have to be aware of the charging voltage. Since I couldn't figure out what my converter capability was, I took the battery back. So I got my $850 back, which is great because I didn't have $850 anyway. Bought a $100 battery, put it right back in, lead acid standard, and kept it charged with my generator. Out of all that came another story, and this is the last accessory for this video, and that is a battery charger. There are gazillions of them on the market. Make sure that, first of all, any battery that you're installing on your RV, whatever type you have, make sure that it's appropriate. Like it's a RV specific deep cycle battery, not just any old 12-volt car battery. It's not the same. So be aware. And make sure that whatever charger you're putting on is compatible with the type of battery that you have. That's important. So because I'm interested in eventually, potentially upgrading to lithium and or AGM. Anyway, upgrading. I got a charger that is capable for all of those things, and actually is recommended by the company that did the lithium batteries. So here it is. I got the NOCO Genius G15000, and I got this on Amazon. You can get it elsewhere. It is multi-capable, so you can use it as a trickle charger, and it's smart, so it won't overcharge your battery or cause any hazardous situations. And you just set which kind of battery in which mode. It still can be used for jumping, which is great. So I can use my truck to jump something else. I have another NOCO that's kind of like this, but it's about 2/3 the size. So it'd be about, say, about this big and not quite as thick either. It's like its own jumping thing, which you can use like when your battery dies on the trailer. I could use that to get the slide in and get the levelers up, something like that. And then let the vehicle charge the battery while you're en route, or use the generator to recharge the battery if it's not dead. That's a lot of battery talk. I learned a lot of battery stuff. But first, most important thing is when your RV is in storage, for me, I'm going to pull the battery out, bring it home, and I'm going to leave it on the charger. So it's always fully charged and ready to go, and I will never kill it again. So that's my lesson learned. A lot of story time there to get to the point for these 3 accessories. 3 very important ones for any RVer out there. If you're obviously in a motorhome, you have banks of batteries and a whole lot of other things. One note I will say about that is lesson learned from my diesel days was I had 4 batteries that required maintenance. They were the house batteries, and it wasn't accessible to get in there and put the water in some of them. And there is a contraption that is the best $20 I ever spent, 20 or 30, I don't remember, but it was basically these little siphon hoses that goes to all 4 of them, and there's one bulb down the line. You just put the end in your distilled water and you squeeze that thing. It fills all the batteries simultaneously and stops when they're full, like it doesn't pump anymore. And then you're good. It was the easiest, greatest thing. So if you have that kind of situation, definitely something to be aware of. When you're storing it, don't forget to disconnect and turn off your house power. But for me, I just take it out and bring it home and charge it up. So if you have questions, comments, recommendations, any other lessons learned to share, please do let me know. Other accessories that we'll be talking about includes like sunshade things for attached to RV or detached on their own. Some different ones that I've gone through, and lots and lots of other things. So more to come. But thanks for watching. Take care. Bye for now.